Please be aware, in this podcast series we talk about all areas of safeguarding, which some people may find upsetting. So please make sure you're okay listening to today's topic. Be mindful of those around you, such as children, that you might not want to listen in. Hi, I'm SSS Safeguarding Director Sam Preston.
And I'm former head teacher and content author Sara Spinks.
Lessons from the Sara Sharif case. Listeners are advised that this podcast contains content related to child abuse, domestic abuse, and child death. Welcome back to Safeguarding Conversations. Today is one of those episodes where you almost want to pause before you begin. It's a difficult one. Sara Sharif's life didn't unravel because of one missed moment. It unfolded over years, in full view of systems that were supposed to protect her. And what's really striking straight away is that the risk didn't suddenly appear. It was there long before Sara was born.
Exactly. Sara's parents met in Poland in 2009. And by that point, her father already had a documented pattern of abusive behaviour, including allegations of false imprisonment of Polish women reported to the police in 2007 and again in 2009. So before a child even enters the picture, agencies already know there is a serious risk attached to this adult. And yes, I think that really matters because when we talk about emerging risk, this wasn't emerging, it was already established.
And yet, within a year, we're already seeing concerns about neglect involving Sara's older half-sibling, domestic abuse reported by the maternal grandmother, the birth mother fleeing with the children to a hotel, and a child protection medical finding finger mark bruising on the half-sibling, which should make you stop and think. When you see bruising like that in the context of domestic abuse, what else do you need to see before risk feels undeniable?
And that's the question, isn't it? Because even when we see the familiar pattern, the father denies responsibility and makes counter allegations, claiming he's the victim, and professionals recognise the pattern, but somehow the system still struggles to hold on to it. So Surrey Children's Services initiate Section 47 inquiries, and the children are placed on child protection plans for emotional abuse and domestic abuse. On paper, that sounds robust.
Yes, Sarah, but then in August 2011, the plans are closed without evidence that the father's behaviour has actually changed.
And that's such an uncomfortable moment because it raises the question, are we closing plans because risk has reduced or because the process itself has reached its limit?
Especially when, just weeks later, there's another domestic abuse incident, more bruising, another plan, and again counter allegations. It's almost textbook perpetrator behaviour. By the time Sara was born in January 2013, she's entering a family already saturated with known risk.
Yes, and her siblings are still subject to child protection planning. The local authority initially seeks interim care orders, proposing separation from both parents, but that plan is withdrawn early and supervision orders are granted instead, which leaves professionals providing high-intensity support in the home, but without the teeth of full protective framework.
And you can hear the unease afterwards, practitioners reflecting that their professional judgment was overridden and that the court was reluctant to authorise removal. And it's worth asking, when courts make decisions that reduce professional control, how do we ensure the safeguarding responsibility doesn't quietly slip away with it?
Yeah, because once the supervision order is made, the child protection plans end. And that's such a critical point. A supervision order isn't the same as protection. It doesn't eliminate risk.
Yeah, and concerns don't go away either, Sarah. In 2014, the older half-sibling tells police the father hit them. Then in November, allegations were made against the birth mother.
That incident becomes a turning point. The children are placed into police protection, but within 24 hours, only the older half-sibling remains protected.
And from this point, from there, the parents separate. The birth mother is required to live elsewhere. Sara and her sibling stay with their father.
Which I think later becomes absolutely pivotal, because separation is treated as a protective factor, but separation doesn't automatically neutralise coercive control or hidden contact, does it?
No, absolutely not. And that's one of the most worrying themes in this case. There's no fact-finding hearing into the father's violence. Clare's law isn't used. Just for listeners, Clare's law, the scheme gives any member of the public the right to ask the police if their partner may pose a risk to them. Completion of the perpetrator programme isn't followed up. Yet decisions continue to lean on the assumption that risk has reduced.
Meanwhile, the older half-sibling is placed under a care order and thrives, which raises an almost unbearable question. What did we already know about safety but apply inconsistently?
Yeah. And it's worth just taking a pause just to let that sink in, Sarah, you're right.
Yeah.
By 2015, the plan for Sara and her sibling shifts again. Adoption is considered, then dropped. A supervision order is made for them to live with their birth mother. The father's contact is meant to be supervised. He's required to attend a domestic abuse programme.
But he doesn't complete it. And crucial information about serious incidents isn't uploaded onto that main child record.
So risk doesn't disappear, it just becomes harder to see, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then the supervision order lapses. Unsupervised contact is allowed without assessment. The case closes.
Which is one of those moments where you wonder, when oversight ends, who's holding the risk?
Absolutely. And by 2019, under pressure, the birth mother agrees that the children should live with the father. Private law proceedings follow. CAFCAS flags domestic abuse, but the children remain with him pending checks.
A Section 7 report is completed by an inexperienced social worker. Historical files aren't fully reviewed. No interpreter is provided for the birth mother, which effectively silences her.
Yeah, and from that point, the abuse escalates behind closed doors. COVID compounds everything. Overcrowding, isolation. Sara is identified as a young carer, but support isn't followed through. Then she's withdrawn for elective home education.
And this is where the system loses sight of her entirely. Referrals are delayed, visits aren't arranged, her birth mother isn't informed despite holding parental responsibility. So the very mechanisms meant to safeguard children become blind spots.
And in March 2023, Sara returns to school with significant facial bruising and a referral is made.
But explanations are accepted. Checks are incomplete. Professional curiosity, something that Sarah, you and I talk about a lot.
Yeah.
It's a crucial part of the safeguarding process. The professional curiosity is just missing.
And then, tragically, in August 2023, her father phones the police to say he has killed her.
This is truly shocking. This wasn't one failure. It was layers of missed opportunities over years across agencies. And it leaves us with a question we can't ignore. Where are children still disappearing in plain sight?
Yeah, because safeguarding isn't about knowing the guidance. It's about how relentlessly we apply it, even when it's uncomfortable.
And remembering that court orders, closed cases and neat endings don't equal safety. Children like Sara need curiosity, courage, and connection, not silence. As we wrap up, I think the most important point to make is that Sara Sharif's tragic death must lead to meaningful change, whether that's through a national register, enhanced welfare checks, or improved interagency collaboration. We owe it to her memory to strengthen the system and prevent future tragedies. Thanks for listening.